Thank you,
Chairman, and sorry, I was a bit late coming to the meeting, so I probably will be asking questions that are crossover and going back over ground that's already covered, so I apologise for that. Just first and foremost, I start with what we're really all asking the same questions. Competition, we had an old saying, competition is the life of trade. So we talk about competition, and we started out for the National Broadband Plan with, 5 or 6 companies were supposed to be interested, then it went down to 4, 3, 2, and eventually 1. I just want to ask you, are you happy, is the Secretary General happy that, like I said, competition is like a trade, that we're down to 1, or would it be better that you had 2 or 3 there, that you could use one against the other and try to get the best value for money and taxpayers' money? So I'd just like to comment on that. I know it's probably asked several times already.
I think it's always better if you have more people bidding in at the final end of a process, in terms of the competitive tension that you get. We've seen situations both nationally and abroad where you're left with only one bidder in the final stage of a project. And for example, in relation to the UK equivalent of the National Broadband Plan, there was only one final bidder. The other bidder dropped out at the last moment. So you have to figure out then, well, what do you do then, or what have you done indeed during the course of the procurement process to ensure that value for money will be guaranteed. And the procurement process that we had engaged in is a competitive dialogue. It's a process that is used for bespoke projects where you don't fully know what the technical sort of scope of the project, the final network design, will actually look like, because it allows you to engage with the bidders in the process to look at things like subsidy levels, technology, construction operation costs, demand and revenue projections. I think the other thing that was helpful from us, for us, was that in the competitive dialogue process you have a number of different stages. The penultimate stage was what's called ISDS. And at that point we actually got 2 bids in, one from the final bidder and one from AIR. So it gave us a chance to compare the bids and the factors taken into account and so on. So we had something to compare against. The other useful thing from our perspective is that we did do a lot of modelling, both financial and technical, during the procurement process. We use models that Comreg use for services that are regulated. We looked at models that are used internationally. A lot of financial modelling done by ourselves and our advisors, KPMG. And at the final stage of the process, we asked KPMG to do a report which would allow an assessment of value for money, for want of a better term, in a situation where you have only one single bidder. The other important component of that is to make sure you have robust post-contract governance arrangements. And then there's a suite of protections that I had mentioned and Fergal has mentioned as well: the performance indicators, the penalties, the oversight arrangements, the checkpoint reviews, the clawback provisions, the standalone board responsible for
Mr. Griffin, I know we could go on, but what you're saying here is that you're happy that there's only one competitor left, and that you're happy that you have crossed the T's and dotted the I's, and you're happy that you can stand over this one competitor at value for money. You're ready to say that here today.
It would have been preferable if we had more than one bidder at the final stage. We didn't, because for reasons of their own, the previous 2 bidders withdrew. But we're satisfied, based on the controls we put in place and what we know about the network that is to be delivered and the post-contract governance arrangements, that this is a robust assessment process that we have put in place, and measures to be included to supplement that.
And can you tell us more on the contract? What is it? Is it a 25-year contract? I hear 25 years being mentioned there. Is it 25 years of a National Broadband Plan rollout? Does that mean that some people in this country won't get broadband for 25 years?
No.
Sorry,
so the build will take place over the earlier years of the contract.
Yes, it's a 25-year contract. It's 25 years because I suppose there's 3 aspects to it. The winning bidder, if they're successful, have to design the network, they have to build the network, and then they have to manage it. And what that means is it will be all built in the first stage, and whether that's whatever number of years that takes. But we do know that people will iteratively and incrementally connect to the network. As each area is built from top to the bottom of the country, people will connect as it's built. But inevitably there will be new homes built in 15 years' time. So we're requiring this winning bidder to honour the contract for 25 years, so that any new builds or anyone that hasn't got a broadband service until year 10 for whatever reason, or they move house, that this company is required to connect them. And it's a contracted connection.
It's going to be all fibre optic cable connection. Is that the contract? That's going to be all fibre optic?
We use the term predominantly.
Predominantly.
And
okay.
We are not eliminating the likelihood of, in certain circumstances where it may make no sense to bring a fibre to a building, it may be wireless, but certainly wireless at a very significant technical solution that ensures at least 30 megabit.
Right. And the infrastructure you're going to use the existing pole systems that's there, that AIR have, or ESP. Is it the ESP or the AIR poles you're going to use that's there? And have you access to those poles? Like they're owned by AIR,
yeah.
Say they're the property of AIR. Are they bound to give access to any pole that they have to this new company that's going to put it up?
So there's multiple infrastructures across the country, and at the end of the day, we'll expect whoever's building this to use what is the most cost-efficient solution to get our maximum value for money. At the moment, I suppose the proposition is that the most cost-effective and the better solution to use is using the Eircom poles. They are fully regulated by Comreg. Comreg oversee how you use them and what Eircom is allowed to charge on a monthly basis and a yearly basis for poles and ducts. So they're fully regulated and will continue to be.
So they'll be rented from AIR to Eircom to the company?
So while we will have a 25-year contract with the existing bidder, that bidder will have many subcontracts with infrastructure providers, including Eircom. And in instances where they decide to use ESP, they will have a contract with them. They will have a contract with ENET and others. And if they use towers and masts, they'll have contracts with them. They have been in discussions with many providers, including Eircom, for the last 2 years. And there is very substantial draft subcontract agreements and rental agreements in place for 25 years, which will underpin our contract. So we have assurances and access to all that infrastructure.
Is it the department that's doing that, or the company that's you're giving the contract to? Who actually makes the deal with say Eircom, however, who actually is signing up the deal? Is it the company that's going to come in? Is the ENET is going to come in? Are they doing the contract, or is the department in charge of the contract of access to the infrastructure? There
will be one contract between the Minister and Graham McCourt if they are successful in the tender. And then Graham McCourt will have a number of contracts sitting under their contract, which we will oversee and make sure they're in place before we sign a contract. So, like a lot of complicated processes, there's many layers of contracts with many subcontractors, because there's build contractors, there's the contract with Eircom for renting infrastructure, there's the contract with the company going to put in the equipment, there's the contract with the company that's going to design the network. So there's many subcontracts that the consortium will have to have in place. And one of our jobs as part of our due diligence is, before we would ask a minister to sign a contract, are all those contracts in place and fit for purpose?
Can I know the rollout of the broadband, and how do you envisage? I know you have a 25-year contract, but how long do you envisage? Because broadband, I can't emphasise how much is in rural Ireland. I'm rural Ireland TD, and when couples come to me now for planning permission or to help them out with planning permission, the first question I'm nearly being asked now about broadband before I'm asked about the planning permission, where they're going to build. They actually, what's the coverage of broadband in the area? This is a regular thing now. When one time, 10 years ago, no one even knew what broadband was. Now I'm asked, what's the coverage of broadband in the area before they actually start to
I'll let Fergal deal with that, but actually we're hearing that all the time as well, both through parliamentary questions, reps of the department and all the rest, and it's actually very reassuring at one level, because we know the demand is out there, and we know that this has a real life-changing potential for people in rural Ireland, and in fact the way rural Ireland is structured.
You said yourself there a minute ago that companies, that people can work from home, companies are happy to live at home if they have the cover, they don't need to leave their home.
And I mean, the point when we last met in December, You raise a case of a constituent. I think he had 9 kids, and all he needed was a pole in the garden, and it couldn't be provided. And the plan will deal with that. So maybe I'll ask Fergal to.
I mean, in terms of how long it'll take, the nearest benchmark we have is Eircom are close to concluding the 300,000 that we all know about across Ireland, and that is fibre over all the poles and through the ducts and to every home. And they started that, I think, around late 2016. They started it. And in mid-2019, June this year, they're saying they're going to be complete. So I suppose that's in the order of 2.5 years to get 300,000 done. That's
so in 5 years' time. In 5 years' time, we say we talk about rural Ireland because it's very good. The towns and will be good. The towns, probably they get priority first, naturally, because that's where the population are based. In rural Ireland, rural Ireland, in 5 years' time, will most of rural Ireland? I know you never have 100%. No one can never say 100%. Will most of rural Ireland have broadband of up to 100 megabytes?
Based on the plan that's in front of us, we'd be quite confident that the majority would be covered within a time frame of that order. And again, we're not going to villages or towns. We are fully concentrated in the main on very rural townlands and everything else, because Eircom are bringing the fibre to the villages.
The other important
That's
point,
good to hear today. I mean, for the people out there that's listening.
And this company has only one mandate and one job, and that is to deliver fibre to rural Ireland. They have no other business.
Right, just want to ask about technology then again. Fibre optic cable seems to be the now there's rumours, or you hear it in the grapevine that there's new technology coming on the stream the whole time. Some people even speak about satellite. You know, will this be outdated in 5 years' time? What we're doing now be outdated? Well, I know progress and we move on the whole time, but there's talks about there could be satellite coverage. I don't know is that profitable. I wouldn't be well up there enough to know about that.
I'll ask Patrick Neary, our Chief Technology Officer, to deal with that, and maybe around issues of 4G and 5G, which are also out there in the ether in terms of solutions.
Well, like I think, Deputy, it's probably just worth reflecting on the process we've undertaken has set out the requirements that we want to bring a high quality, reliable broadband service out to rural people with a minimum of 30 megabit in download speeds and 6 up. So we set that out, and we want it to be future proofed so that it's fit for purpose over 25 years. Now, at the table during the process of the procurement, we've had 3 large consortiums of experts come forward with their proposals, and through that engagement with our own advice and our own expertise, we've examined all technologies. We've examined fibre to the home, wireless technologies, satellite technologies, and how they could be deployed in the most efficient manner in the areas we're talking about. Now, that has taken, it's over the whole process, probably 2 years end to end, but throughout that we've concluded, or the bidders have concluded, that the best solution is a fibre to the home, a predominantly fibre to the home solution.
Just I got a presentation from Mayor, from Mayor now, a very good presentation. I would say it enlightened me a lot. And they were speaking about the rollout. You know, the old landlines, which is copper, they're not fibre optic.
Yeah.
And they actually said that if you have good copper line, now a lot of the lines are old, but if there's good copper lines there, that you could get up to 100 megawatts in that. Are they going to be all taken out now and replaced with the fibre optic lines? Is all the old cables going to be removed
again,
and these new cables going to be put in? I mean, it sounds phenomenal to me, an awful lot of money and costs.
I guess the solution you're referring to is where you bring a fibre to a cabinet, and the cabinet out to the house is copper, right? Now that's the solution Air have deployed in the cities and suburban areas, because the main issue with that solution is that the distance from the cabinet to the home over the copper, you can only sustain a 30 megabit
so is all
service.
Are all the copper lines going to be taken away and replaced by fibre optic?
Well, just to finish that, you can only go about a kilometre from the cabinet and still deliver a high-speed broadband service. So that's very restrained in terms of its how many homes it can serve directly close to the cabinet. It doesn't really work in a rural setting because there's not that many homes that are within a kilometre in rural Ireland. So in rural areas, the idea would be to bring fibre all the way to the house. predominantly for the solution.
Mr. Griffin, can I ask you again, what percentage of the population actually have cover, I would say reasonable cover at the moment? Do you know that? Do you know those statistics there? Have you those statistics? What percentage of the country, we say, have cover at the moment?
Currently, there's 74% of premises in Ireland have high-speed broadband.
74%?
Yeah.
Satisfactory cover?
Yeah, with 30 megabit or above.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
our estimate. Yeah.
And is the 30, this is the 700,000 that we're speaking of then that are left out of the loop?
Well, by the end of this year, we'd expect that to rise to 77% because there's more rollouts happening throughout this year from commercial operators.
That's because even last week in Carlow, I was asked to. There was a launch by Vodafone and Sierra, I think. I mean, they're all. So this must be cutting down on
They're Vodafone and Cyro are towns and villages, so they are not going out into the rural areas. Yeah.
But it must be cutting back on the waiting list. We say the 700,000 we're speaking of.
No, because they're rural. We're looking at the rural premises, the ones that are being left behind by the commercial operators.
This was the national broadband practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I knew that.
Just in terms of other technologies, I mean, what we've done as well as the technical evaluation, we've looked at what other European markets are doing and whether they're going fibre to the premises or other technologies. UK, fibre to the premises, Germany, fibre to the premises, France, all the commercial operators are doing fibre to the premises, Italy, fibre to the premises, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Sweden, Switzerland, Norway. So, like, the horse being backed by both the commercial operators in Ireland and by what we're seeing internationally is a fibre to the premises solution.
Yeah, vote. I just want to ask, I'll finish up because I just want to ask, because our job is to scrutinise the money, as you know, and to follow where the taxpayers' money and the Taoiseach himself said in the draw recently, and I've asked this question a few times, that's what the original cost and the cost that's going to be is going to be multiple. He said it will be a multiple of what it is. Can you try to realise that cost of the National Children's Hospital, the furore about it, the spending money, and a lot of people think, waste of money, whatever you like to call it, but what do we think the final figures? Have we any idea now what the final figures will it be a multiple of what we're talking about now?
So first of all, it's a change in the cost estimate, and that's a very important distinction to make. Like, we haven't spent money other than on the advisory services that we use to assist us in developing the overall approach. We haven't spent money on a build, so it's different from the Children's Hospital in that respect. The cost will be a lot higher than what we had projected.
Are we talking about bills here?
I'm not going to give you a figure, Deputy.
Well, even an idea? Are we talking about? No.
No.
So you're afraid to say?
I'm not afraid at all, but I mean, until the government have been fully briefed on this, I don't think it'd be appropriate. Okay.
But I mean, the Taoiseach himself has said that all.
He said multiples.
Multiples. I mean, that's more than 4.
Well, I don't know. It all depends on how you define. I need to look at the dictionary and see what a multiple is.
So your interpretation.
Go back to my primary school maths.
Your interpretation of multiples then. That's the important. And do you still expect them to make the announcement for which I asked them last week before Easter?
So the Taoiseach has indicated his intention to announce this before Easter. The Minister said it in replies to orals yesterday, and he also indicated that the arrangements will be made to brief the Oireachtas at that stage.
So you're saying it's all systems go at this stage?
Yeah.
But,
okay.
What you said at the beginning, the next step is to approve the preferred bidder.
Yes.
That's the next stage.
Absolutely.
So whether or not there's a contract signed will be some period after. So what's to be done by Easter, from your understanding?
By Easter, for us, it's to finalise the evaluation work. Is a lot of it done? It's to bring a memorandum to government with a recommendation.
For a preferred bidder.
Assuming the government want to go with it, it would be for the appointment of a preferred bidder.
Yeah, but after preferred bidder, I've seen before preferred bidders don't always get to. Things change after a preferred bidder.
So there'll be a number of contractual issues to be nailed.
Okay, but at this stage we're suspending now for lunch. There will be. We're not finished yet. Okay. Maybe some other. So we'll come back at 2:30.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We're now suspended.
Thank you.
Okay, we have to go vote.